Hi, I'm Amanda Blair. I serve on the faculty in the Animal Science Department at South Dakota State University as a professor, and I also serve as our State Extension Meat Science Specialist. At the 2019 Cattlemen's College, I was invited to come and speak with my partner, Dr. Jana Block, about the topic of fetal programming in beef cattle. That's an area we've been researching for about the last 8 years or so at South Dakota State University. And really what we have an interest in is understanding how the maternal environment affects the lifetime impacts in terms of how that affects the feedlot performance and the carcass outcomes, in particular of cattle. This area of fetal programming or developmental programming is simply the concept that the maternal environment can create lifetime implications for the outcome of that offspring. And there's several different mechanisms by which this occurs, but essentially what's going on is there's some type of alteration to the maternal environment. That could be alterations to placental development or transfer of nutrients from the dam to the fetus, stress events, or limited nutrients. All those alterations can lead to changes in gene expression, and it can also lead to heritable changes. Those are known as epigenetic changes, and these are changes that can be transferred down to the next generation. So they're kind of not encoded in the DNA, but they're things that come from the maternal environment that can, again, pass down these lifetime or subsequent generational changes in offspring. What we've been particularly interested in looking into is the effects at mid-gestation. But during our presentation, we really covered what goes on developmentally in the fetus at early, mid, and late gestation. Because a lot of times we don't really think about the fact that that cow is almost always should be eating not just for herself. She should be either gestating and lactating, or lactating. So there's really no time during the year that that cow is really just eating for herself. So that puts a lot of nutrient demands on that cow. And at times we know that nutrients can be limited. So if nutrients become limited, we can have effects on some of those fetal programming factors like I talked about. So again, early, mid, and late gestation. During early gestation, the fetus is very, very small, but there's a whole host of things that are going on in terms of maternal recognition of pregnancy, changes in the dam's hormone status. There's also a huge amount of developmental events that go on with the fetus in terms of organ development. The heart starts beating within the first 20 to 22 days. The sex organs start to develop. One thing we don't consider is that a heifer calf is born with all the eggs she's ever going to have. So if there's any limitations during development, especially in early gestation, that could impact her fertility throughout the rest of her life. My area of interest, again, has been in mid-gestation, and the reason for that is because mid-gestation is a critical period for both muscle and fat development. We see the peak of secondary muscle fiber development, and those are the fibers that make up the bulk of the muscle mass of the animal. We also see the initiation of fat cell development during mid-gestation. So any insults that could occur to that fetus during that time thought to have effects on the carcass, the composition of that animal, things like yield grade and quality grade. The other kind of interesting thing that as well, I as a meat scientist might think that muscle and fat are the two most important tissues. Really in terms of priority at this time during development, they rank pretty low. So the fetus is going to give priority to things like the brain and the heart. And if there's restrictions, muscle and fat can be compromised. Again, that could affect the outcome of that carcass. So during Cattlemen's College, we presented a lot of the results that the things that we've learned at South Dakota State University, along with a host of other results from our colleagues across the country in terms of what goes on when we restrict nutrients to cows at specific times during gestation. To producers, we know that this is an emerging area of interest. Really, we start to see more and more of this research translated into industry publications. And most of what we can tell you is really we're not ready to make any big recommendations for most people to say you should change your operation severely. Most of the work that we've really been doing is trying to kind of find those upper and lower limits of where we can push cattle and what some of those subsequent effects are on the offspring. But as we learn more, I think eventually we'll be able to use this knowledge really as a tool to promote positive changes and hopefully target specific things in our operations that we might be interested in. So keep an eye on this area of fetal programming and definitely ask questions as you learn more.